Thanks. You can have a seat. We are so happy that you are here. We call it National Humanity Day because we recognize that not everyone has children and not everyone has a great relationship with their father or their mother on Mother's Day. And so we all have the opportunity to nurture one another and to support one another. And so happy Humanity Day and happy Father's Day, but let's be a little more broad-minded than that. My name is Andrea Smith. I have the privilege of being the pastor here at West, and we are so grateful that you have chosen to spend your Sunday here with us. If it's your first time, we have a gift for you outside at our VIP tent. If you would like to receive a gift, you don't have to opt in to hearing from us. We'd love for you to, and you can choose how much or how often, but we're grateful. There's a lot of different places and things and ways you could be spending your time this morning, and the fact that you chose to be here, it means a lot. So this past week was a really exciting week in the life of our church. Lane and our Amped team had Amped Camp. We had over 20 kids from around the greater community, and I want to show you just a little bit of what you made happen this week. So thank you for your offerings, your tithes and offerings that you give to West Went to support Amped Camp. Several of you sponsored kids so that they could get a t-shirt and that kind of stuff. And so several others of you cooked dinner one of the nights, and we provided a meal. So just a huge shout out to you. That was our emphasis for the last several weeks. And of course, we continue to focus on the Back to School Bash that's coming up in mid-July. We finally opened registration this week, and within 24 hours, we had over 600 kids that had registered. So clearly, it's important, it is a need, and we will continue to focus on that. But another focus that we're going to be talking about in the days and weeks ahead, over the next 4 weeks before they go on their mission trip, is we have a partner with Acres of Hope in Nebi, Uganda. We've been a partner with them since it began. We had the privilege of praying over the land before Pastor Jeffrey was able to even have financial sponsors. So we've been a part of Acres of Hope from the very beginning. And in July, we have a team that is going. We will commission them the first Sunday in July. Next week, we're going to show you a video about that. But today, Lance and Joycelyn, they are set up outside in the commons area. One of the ways that we support Acres of Hope is through child sponsorship. It's $50 or $60 a month, and it provides all the school fees, medical care. This is a program that we helped set up with Pastor Jeffrey 13 years years ago with the mentoring of Myers Park United Methodist in Charlotte when this all began. And so it's so cool to watch how the kids have grown and how child sponsorship really matters. The money goes directly to supporting that child, and you have the opportunity to engage in writing letters to them. It's all digital. It can be digital. And so I do hope you'll stop by the booth outside and visit Lance and Joycelyn and talk to them a little about Acres of Hope. West as a church sponsors 2 kids, and then our kids ministry sponsors a kid. It's an important ministry, and so I hope you'll take a few minutes to learn more about that. Today we are starting a new message series in a very politically charged and divided world, and it will only get more politically charged and divided leading into November. We thought we would be preemptive, and we would talk about politics, which makes my stomach hurt a little bit, but it's not going to be the kind of conversation around politics that you might suspect. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and I would hear many sermons about what you should do and vote, and that's just not what this is about. We're going to talk about unity. It's a biblical concept. It's an important concept. And today we're going to talk about what unity is not. And then next week we're going to talk about what unity is. And then the third week we're going to talk about how we be a unified people. If you recall our denomination, you heard Reverend Dan Pizzette, who is our district superintendent, for about, one more week. Annual conferences this week, and then we'll be changing districts. But you heard him preach last Sunday. I did not know that's what he was going to be preaching on, but his point was that even though, like in the state of North Carolina, like our denomination divided because we see some issues differently, we still, even though in United Methodism that we are a part of in the Western North Carolina Conference, I think folks assumed that because we voted to do one thing as a denomination that we would be unified across political lines, and we would all think the same. Duke Divinity School did a survey, and it showed the exact opposite, that as United Methodist in this new place that we still are half and half as a state. So unity is something that is important. So we're going to talk about that today. One of the first points of the message is going to be that unity is not uniformity. And so I wanted us to play a little game. We're not going to do texting or anything like that this morning. I just want you to shout out what you think it is. But unity is not uniformity, and I want us to remember that. And sometimes, we have uniforms that depict different things. So we have a little game for you of uniforms. Let's look at the first one. What is this? Yes, very good. You are very literal as a congregation. Yes, it is scrubs. What occupation might this be? I heard someone say it. Nurses, yes, very good. Or healthcare professionals, yes. Next. Police, very good. Next. Firefighters, very good. Next. Baseball, very good. Next. The military, and which branch? Army, for those of you sitting up close, you can tell. Yeah. Next. Amazon, they have uniforms as well. Does somebody work for Amazon? Well, I'm grateful for Amazon. And what is that? A dog walker? It could be a dog walker. It's also the uniform of your preacher, but I broke uniform today. It's typically a black jeans and blue jeans and a black shirt, but in 90-degree weather, blue jeans just are a hard stretch. So we're glad that you're here. We're going to talk about unity, and I hope you leave today with just some new things to think about.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut. Hey, Arnold, I'm hearing neighbor. It's neighbor.
That's what I said. Neighbor.
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 Hey, let's go again.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut.
Now what?
Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor. Just like it's written on the paper. Neighbor! That was the sheep. And you know it. Neighbor.
Still no.
Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Bar.
Bar.
Bar! This lane is in labor!
Cut. Arnold, got a bit of a script change. You'll love this.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good
neighbor, State Farm is there.
You are a backstabber.
I am a backstabber.
Do you know the State Farm uniform? Are you familiar with that? Okay, yeah. Some of us, will you clap if you know the State Farm uniform? Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to talk about unity and what unity is not. And we're going to end the message today with a little game of Uno. I have 4 volunteers that will be playing Uno, and there's a prize. And so the kicker is they have to donate this to their favorite mission. It's part of my tithe, so I figured I could give it to them, sort of. They don't get to keep it for themselves. They have to choose a mission that hopefully we support, but hopefully that will increase the intensity around the Uno game. Do you clap if you like to talk about politics with your friends? Okay, that's no one. Okay, right? And like family, family get-togethers or family meals. It's like, we can talk about anything but politics. If you are on social media at all, mainly TikTok is the one that I watch with videos. There's videos of both opposing parties. Like, I'll confess, I don't know if you saw the one of, it was very disrespectful of, well, they all are, of President Biden, and he was at some event, and he turned around and he squatted. Did y'all see that? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Will you clap? Okay, some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to confess, last week when Dan was preaching and he turned around, I'm like, oh dear heavens, he's talking about unity and he's going to portray that parody of President Biden, but that is not what he did, and I was very relieved. It was very disrespectful to our president. And then the other candidate for presidency, I've seen videos of potatoes with a little tuft of hair on the top of them, and there's lots of videos like that, making fun of his physical appearance. Neither of those are videos that portray unity. So how do we have unity in a time that we are so divided? And I'm going to put your fears to rest. I am not going to talk about political parties. I'm not going to try to influence you to vote one way or another. I'm not going to even be talking about what each represent, because even the way that we interpret those things, it's just very different. And honestly, I'm the least politically educated person around politics probably in this room. They are uncomfortable for me. I know what I believe in, and I try to vote in line with my morals and what Jesus would be like, and that's where I stop. But odds are, over the next 6 months, we're going to have lots of conversations with others, and we're going to see lots of things that cause us to think about our stance and what we do. And the bottom line is, what if we act as a unified people? And what does that mean? So first of all, like we were talking about with the uniforms, unity is not uniformity. So often we think that if we're unified about something, that we all have to be the exact same, and we don't acknowledge differences. And that there's nothing healthy that comes from not acknowledging differences. The other thing that unity is not is unanimity, like the consensus model that everybody has to believe the exact same thing. So let's take those two things for just a second. Like, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and thank goodness I had parents that taught me this one concept, but we took it like almost too far in our society, and it ended up backfiring on us a little. My parents, I lived in a very diverse area in Roxborough, North Carolina for the first 9 years. Are we okay? Okay. Somebody just tell me what that was. Soundboard. Okay. I have this fear of being shot. I just, because it's dark in here, and so, I'm just going to need a minute. I just need just a small minute. Okay. Loud noises scare me. All right, now, what unanimity is, or oh my goodness, okay. What unity is not unanimity and uniformity. I grew up in Roxborough, North Carolina. And for the first 9 years of my life, I lived in a very, very diverse area. And so I had friends that did not look like me. I remember in kindergarten coming home and telling my parents who my best friends were. And I told them that they had a skin color that was different. And my parents were very quick to correct me and say, there's no difference. We're all one. Now that's great, right? They were trying to teach me not to be biased and prejudiced, but guess what? Like we took that too far. Like there's no difference in worth. There's no difference in self-value. There's no difference in how we measure up in anything. We are all people of worth and we are all equal, and there is no difference in that. But we took that no difference like too far and saying, oh, there's no differences. And so we have taken what could be something to be celebrated and we have like pushed it to the side. That's actually something that is coming up now in our conversations around ethnicity and diversity and being an inclusive people, is recognizing and celebrating our differences. There's a United Methodist pastor, and she's very, very eloquent, very gifted in her field, and she is a friend of mine. She preaches in the Baltimore, Maryland annual conference, and all her life she tried to repress her color. She tried, and these are her words, not mine. She's like, I tried to dress white. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to stand out. I wore my hair in such a way that I wanted to blend in with my white friends. I would straighten my hair. I would do everything that I could to not appear to be black, because I always felt like it was looked down on. And then, thankfully, in our society, this awareness has just come to light in a whole new way over the last decade. And she's like, I'm learning to embrace who I am. And I'm learning to accept and embrace my differences and see that they're good. What if that is part of being a unified people? That recognizing that even though we have differences in the way we look, and guess what? Differences in the way we think, we can still be one. Unity, I also said, is not unanimity. Try saying that 3 times out loud really fast. It's a tongue twister. Unanimity, that's not unity. Unanimity is when we think everybody has to come to a consensus and believe the exact same thing. So there are ways that you can lead organizations and boards of directors, and there's Robert's Rules of Order. Will you clap if you've ever heard of Robert's Rules of Order? Lots of us. And then there's this other thing, it's called a consensus model. For a while, I thought that the consensus model was a good thing because, like, first of all, I'm not really a very structured person, so I get lost and will get lost this week at annual conference when it's like, okay, I make a motion and then somebody has to second the motion and then there's a point of order and all that kind of stuff. I just get very confused. And so for me, I just appreciate the consensus model. But one of the things that I've learned over the years, and we do consensus model here at West really well, but in other organizations that I've either been a part of or led, it's hard to have a consensus model because some folks that feel like they don't have a voice or their voice doesn't matter, they won't speak up. And those with the louder voice, they seem to win. Sometimes in meetings, like what I've shared with you about the back to school bash, and we were wrestling with where to have that this year. I mean, ideally, it would be really, really cool to have it in downtown Mooresville and sort of take over like the whole downtown area on a day that we celebrate our community coming together and contributing all that we have so that the community can also be prepared to start school in a positive way. Like there's just some excitement and energy around that and having it downtown. But we are used to giving up our little holy seats on Sunday morning and giving up our comfort here and going and doing stuff. But other churches that are of other faith traditions, they're not used to that. And so out of respect, we decided, okay, because their pastor, priest, was not willing to forego worship on Sunday morning. They didn't see that the bash was an act of worship. And you know what? That's okay. Because they view it differently. So, like when we were having a board meeting and we were trying to come up with where we were going to go and what we were going to do, I noticed that the consensus model was not working. Because some of the people on the board, they just wouldn't voice their opinion. I don't know why I didn't ask them, but I just noticed that they were quiet. At least in Robert's Rules of Order, like everybody votes. You vote yay, you vote nay, or you can abstain. Unity is not unanimity. Just like the other church that sees worship differently than we do. We can see that one issue two very different ways and then still come at the common goal. And what is the goal? Pooling our resources and getting area businesses and other nonprofits to work together with us so that we can buy school supplies in bulk. We can get good tennis shoes at a good price and give them to the kids in our area, the families in our areas that have needs, whatever those needs are, and so they will feel empowered to start school ready. Even on something that seems so easy to get, there's differences among those conversations. But that's okay. Unity is not uniformity, it is not unanimity, and it also is not union. Next weekend, I'll gather with a couple that I've been counseling for several months at Chickadee Farms, and they are going to come together as one. They are going to celebrate a union. But guess what? Just because they celebrate a union, just because they celebrate the sacred covenant of marriage, it does not mean that they are giving up their individual identities. They will become one unit, one family, one love, and one love with God. But they're not like foregoing their own selves. Why is it that talking about unity, it makes us uncomfortable? Well, perhaps this is where it steps on our toes a little bit. And I want you to hear the scripture this morning, the first passage. There's two that I want to share with you. This is probably the most famous or well-known passage that the Apostle Paul, who started many churches in the movement of early Christianity, this is one of the passages that he wrote to the people, trying to stress to them what unity meant and what it was about. This is the passage we're going to unpack for the next several weeks. Take a look. I, therefore, the prisoner in the Lord, beg you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all in all. One God And we've talked about what God is. God is love. So we've talked about what unity is not. It is not uniformity. We don't all have to be the same, look the same, do the same things, act the same. It is not unanimity where we all have to think the exact same thing. And it is not a union where we all have to come together and be one. So then what is unity? Well, we clothe ourselves in gentleness and humility and peace. And what if unity is where we actually look at what our differences are and we celebrate them? And like Dan Pizzette said last Sunday, what if, we learn from one another? Learning from one another doesn't mean you have to compromise your stance or forego something that you're very passionate about. But what if unity can be our willingness to harness our energies in humility and patience and gentleness and love, and we work toward a common goal? Well, what would our common goal be? Well, if we're acting like Jesus, it would be to love people. So I want to invite the Uno team up here that's going to play Uno with us for just a second. This is my closing illustration, and it's intentional. Because clap if you've played Uno at some point in your life. Clap if you've not played Uno. Okay, a few of us. We're going to have that opportunity for you after worship next Sunday. There is a $100 bill up here. So the four of you, it's a little selfish. It can go to the mission of your choice, just in case you did not hear that. Here is a stack of Uno cards. I'm going to deal them to you. And I procrastinate a little, so I went to Target this morning, and I had some anxiety. I'm like, what do you mean Uno Flip? I don't have time to learn Uno Flip by the end of the series. They had one pack of old school Uno cards left, so that will probably not teach me to wait till the last minute. So the way that we're going to play this is I'm going to deal you each 7 cards, and then I'm going to flip a card over on this table. And I've realized I cannot count and talk at the same time. Thank you. And Lance, you have 7, right? Yep. All right. So I'm going to turn over the card. Okay, we need to, all right, it's a wild card if it doesn't have instructions. So they are a little more modern. So I'm going to turn a card over, and then Lance, you're to my left, so you get to go first. You either play, y'all do know how to play Uno, right? Okay. If you don't have a card, you have to deal from the pile until you get a card, okay? So they're playing, it's blue. Still blue. It's a 9. Adam has played a draw 2. So let's pause for just a second. Adam, how did it feel playing that draw 2?
Really good.
Tell me more about that.
I'm a little competitive. I really want to win $100. I'm not sure who I'm going to give it to yet, but and I want Dawn to lose, basically.
Okay, well, very good. So, Dawn, I want to tell, Dawn looks so hurt. Dawn, how do you feel about having to draw 2?
I was very sad because I think it means I'm going to have to skip a turn.
You are skipping a
And
turn.
I have more cards in my hand, which puts me in a not good position.
Probably you won't win, right?
Well, hopefully I still have some hope.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad. Dawn always has hope, actually. Positivity is one of her biggest strengths. All right, Luann? Ooh, Lance has just played a draw 4.
Green.
Let's talk about the draw 4. How'd you feel?
I feel great because now I'm on Dawn's side and it's I'm paying Adam back.
You're paying Adam back,
And I want
all
the
right?
$100 too.
And you want the $100
I do.
for Acres of Hope?
Absolutely.
That's what I figured. All right, so Adam, how does one feel now having to draw 4?
I thought Lance was my friend. And but it's okay. I'm pretty hopeful though.
Still hopeful?
Yeah, I got
All
some
right.
hopeful though.
Good. All right, good. Continue. Dawn? Green. Oh, you got to call it. Tell me about that. What did you just do?
Change the color to green
You changed the color to green. Why'd you do that?
because I have green cards.
You do have some green cards. In fact, this game will end very quickly unless something happens. Continue. Ooh, so this is why I stopped preaching early, because this can go. Adam has now called it to blue, which is what it originally was. Lance is drawing forward, which means he cannot go, so now it's Luann's turn. Green, there is no penalty though, right? You just get to call it the way you want to. Skip Adam.
Boy, I'm in trouble here.
Ooh, draw 2. And let's look at Luann's hand. How many cards does she have left?
We don't know.
Oh, okay. I think
But
you.
you have to call Uno if you only got one.
Don't remind her.
Okay.
I get to go, right?
Yep.
Is it my turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that'll agree.
All right, Luann has Uno.
Thank you.
Chances she's got a.
Blue.
There's no way you're holding
Uno.
Uno again, and it's blue. Ooh. All right, for the sake of this, y'all can finish this after the worship experience. I want you to stand, actually keep playing quietly
we'll play
while I make my point, okay? So notice what they did. Like, they reversed it. They took it back away from other people. They made others draw. They got to claim it. Oh, now Dawn has Uno. Okay, they still. All right, I'm calling it. Go sit down. I'm not going to be able to make my point.
We'll split the $100.
You can split the $100. Each charity can. We'll give it to Acres of Hope out there. That's a lot like how we roll when we start expressing our opinions with an unwillingness to listen. Think about it. So like you're playing Uno and you lay down the card and it's a wild and you change the color. You change the color because it benefited you, right? Like you're not thinking about the other people around the table. When we go through our lives and we have an unapproachability around topics that are near and dear to the heart of the people that we are in relationship with, when we are unwilling to listen with gentleness and humility and love, it's just like zapping somebody with a draw 4 over and over again. We are all created in the image of God. We're all beautiful human beings. And we have things that shape us throughout our lives that cause us to feel very strongly about our political beliefs. What if we approach our political beliefs with the mindset of unity? That we harness our differences together for a common goal of love. Let us pray. Gracious God, you have called us to follow in the footsteps of Christ. And just as the Apostle Paul wrote about how we need to do that, he also wrote about the beauty of being different and the beauty of the body of Christ, and like how every part of the body has a different role and a different function, but they come together to be one. Wouldn't it be beautiful if across political divides, we can still act as a unified people, holding on to what we believe, but moving forward in love? We offer ourselves to you. Through Christ's name we pray. Amen. As the team sings the closing song, I want you today just to sit and think a few minutes about people in your life that perhaps may be of opposing thought than you. And how can we be unified in how we approach that? And how can we be a people of love? Please stand for the benediction. As we go through the next several days and weeks, may we be mindful, like when we see news reports about the political campaign and we see things that deface someone's character, like just stop ourselves and think about what unity is. Unity is always acting in the act of love. We can disagree and even pick candidates, but still be a people of love. May we make a change so then our community will feel a change, and hopefully ultimately our nation and our world will feel a change. Go in peace.